259. Jawaharlal Nehru noted this as early in 1933. The bulwark of communalism today is political reaction, and so we find that communal leaders inevitably tend to become reactionaries in political and economic matters. Groups of upper class people try to cover up their own class interests by making it appear that they stand for communal demands of religious minorities or majorities. A critical examination of the various communal demands put forward on behalf of Hindus, Muslims, or other reveals that they have nothing to do with masses. The national movement firmly opposed the communal forces, for its commitment to secularism was always deep and total, yet it was not able to fully counter the communal challenge. In the end, the communalism succeeded in partitioning the country. How is this failure to be explained? One answer that is often given is that the nationalist leaders did not make enough efforts to negotiate with the and conciliate with the communal leaders. Our view is very opposite. From the beginning, the nationalist leaders relied too much on negotiations with the communal leaders. But it was not possible to conciliate or appease communalism. Furthermore, efforts to appease one communalism invariably led to growth of the other communalisms in the form of backlash. Between 1937 and 1939, the Congress leaders repeatedly met Jinnah to conciliate him, but Jinnah would not make any concrete demands. Instead, he put forward the impossible demand that he would negotiate with the Congress only if the Congress first accepted that it was a Hindu party and represented only the Hindus. The Congress could not possibly have accepted this demand, for it meant giving up its basic secular nationalist character. The fact is that the more communalism was conciliated, the more extreme it became. What was required was not further appeasement but an all out ideological political struggle against communalism. What was required was a massive campaign against communalism, a massive campaign of the kind that was carried on against colonial ideology since the 1880s. But the nationalists did not do so, except sporadically. However, the successes of the secular nationalism should not be underrated. Despite the partition riots and the resurgence of communal forces during 1946 and 7, India did succeed after independence in framing a secular constitution and in building a basically secular polity and society. Hindu communalism did make deep inroads in society and even in the ranks of the nationalists, but it remained a minority force among the Hindus. While many Muslims were swept away by the tide of religious fanaticism and communalism during 1946 and 47, others stood like a rock against communalism. The names of Abdul Kalam Azad, Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, the firebrand socialist Yusuf Meher Ali, S.A. Bravely, the fearless journalist, the historians Muhammad Habib and K.M. Ashraf, Josh Malil Habadi, Faiz Ahmad Faiz, Sardar Jafri, Sahir Ludhiavani, and Kafi Azmi, the stormy petrels of Urdu poetry, and the Maulana Madani readily came to mind. Nationalist movement during the Second World War. The Second World War broke out in September 1939 when Nazi Germany invaded Poland in pursuance of Hitler's scheme for German expansion. Earlier, he had occupied Austria in March 1938 and Czechoslovakia in March 1939. Britain and France, which had tried their best to placate Hitler, were forced to go to Poland's aid. The government of India immediately joined the war without consulting the National Congress or the elected members of the central legislature. The National Congress was in full sympathy with the victims of fascist aggression. It was willing to help the forces of democracy in their struggle against fascism. But the Congress leaders asked how it was possible for an enslaved nation to aid others in their fight for freedom. They therefore demanded that India must be declared free, or at least effective power put in Indian hands before it could actively participate in the war. The British government refused to accept this demand and tried to pit religious minorities and princes against the Congress. The Congress therefore had asked its ministries to resign. On October 1940, Gandhi gave a call for a limited satyagraha by a few selected individuals. The satyagraha was kept limited so as not to embarrass Britain's war effort by a mass upheaval in India. Thank you everyone for tuning in. In the next part, we will start with the next paragraph. All the best for exams, and do share and subscribe the channel for more videos like this. Thank you.